Worry not. It's about to become mainstream information. That's right, it's the one player that every single team should sign. Transfer season is upon us, and with very little movement made in January, this summer could be massive for a lot of Premier League clubs. And we've dug up the perfect signings for every Premier League team, as well as the newly promoted teams. Welcome. And for those of you who are just lacking that little bit of a hope after a disappointing season, it's like Shawshank Redemption. It's sunshine on a rainy day. That is retail shopping. Buy things. That'll solve it. Ask a Chelsea fan. They have finished well. In this video, we're going to solve Man United's issues. We're going to get Arsenal that final piece of the puzzle, and we're going to give Arne Slot one player that he truly needs at Liverpool. Newcastle. Now, being wise in the transfer window and shopping within the correct age ranges has been something that this club has been doing for a while now. And we've seen it work well in their recent signings, but injuries this season have highlighted the need for a centre-back, and we've found the ideal one for Newcastle. He's only made 7 starts for Inter Milan this season, but at 23 years old, he looks like he could become world-class, potentially. One day. Who knows? So many things can happen in life. Jan Bissek ticks all the boxes in terms of being a modern centre-back. He's athletic. He's got great technique. He's absolutely massive at 6'4". And importantly, he has made 0 errors in 14 Serie A appearances this season. It would be a very clever, cute signing for Newcastle this summer. Now, Liverpool. This is a shout that you won't see anywhere else, but you have to think about the profiles here. Now, with Arne Slot coming to Liverpool, one position feels very important to fill, and he can be quite picky with this position, can our Arnie? At Feyenoord, he's been playing Mats Vijver at the base of midfield, and he likes him because, well, he's ultra dependable and stays central for the most part, but he's also got some physicality to his game. So obviously, we've not gone for Mats Vijver. That would be super boring. But we have gone for a player with a very similar profile in Manuel Locatelli. Get it done. I'd love to see it. At 26 years old, he's primed and ready to become the metronome in midfield for Liverpool, and I think it makes complete sense. Get him before he costs too much. That's my advice. There will be some seriously talented players relegated from the Premier League this season, and this presents itself as a fantastic opportunity for teams who are safe to take full advantage and just devour the scraps of quality. Now, I really like the attack of Wolves, but with injuries, it can become a bit lightweight when their best players are injured, and sometimes their best players are injured, and they also like players who are great in transition, have a bit of flair, and importantly, pace. And at 19 years old, I think Wilson Odobert is a star in the making. And poaching him from Burnley, if they're relegated, would be a very clever acquisition. This next team faces a big summer ahead, regardless of what division they're in. Their progressive style is positive, it's fun, but they need some quality in defence because they could lose a few players this summer. So for Burnley, we've taken a look at League 1 for some sensible centre-backs that could help fill the void of Max Bayer if he does leave. And we've come up with 24-year-old Warmed Omari, who is brilliant physically and also comfortable on the ball. His current market value is around 7 million, so cheap, and that feels affordable regardless of which division Burnley find themselves in next year. The manager of this next team has been pretty vocal recently on the changes that need to be made, and in particular, that could well be a striker. But the problem is that Ange Postecoglou's strikers, they need a bit about them to be successful. They need to be able to affect the game both in and out of possession, and most importantly, score goals. And this guy, wow, this guy has scored goals this year, as well as playing in a pressing system that has highlighted his off-the-ball work ethic. With 18 goals so far and being very adaptable in his play, Dominic Solanke feels like a no-brainer for me when it comes to Tottenham. Right, guys, let's not beat around the bush with this one. This team could lose their star striker this summer, okay? But don't worry, because the transfer strategy of this team has been praised by the players of the club because of their ambition, but also the due diligence that they put in when researching a player. So that's what we've done here through the help of StatHead. 3 cheers for StatHead. Hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray. So what we had to do was we had to look at who the best strikers are outside of the top 5 leagues to find some gems, and we have found the ideal Dom Solanke replacement for Bournemouth, Kevin Denke. He's 23 years old, 6 foot tall, and importantly, has 23 goals, 21 of those non-penalty, for Cercle Bruges. Now, I might have said Cercle wrong there, and I apologise for that. But Cercle Bruges, again, I'm sorry, they've only scored 44 goals this season, and they sit 5th in the table. So his profile matches up very similar to Solanke, and it could be a very astute signing. So you heard it here first. Keep an eye out for Mr. Denke. Kev Denke. Really excited about this next one because I think it could be a bit of a marker. Putting a marker down Terrible. That's supposed to be Roy Keane. But anyway, this feels like the first time in a while where we haven't recommended a striker for this team. But the needs of the team, I think, are slightly different these days because of the players that they've lost over the last 2 seasons. So we think a midfielder with some bite is what's needed because of how lightweight their midfield can be sometimes. Brighton have got Carlos Baleba, who could come good, but right now he doesn't start every game and he's not there yet. So I think it's an option that you could strengthen midfield. And this player that we've gone for, he had an excellent season this year with 4.3 tackles and interceptions per 90, as well as being very comfortable with his distribution. This is why Florentino Luis from Benfica, I think, would be ideal for that physicality and defensive acumen that you need at Brighton. Right, there's going to be a lot of angry people when it comes to this next one, but the fans of the team that I've linked this player to, I think are going to be pretty pleased. And they should be excited because despite challenging for the title, this team doesn't have an out-and-out striker who consistently scores goals on a routine basis. In fact, their top scorer this season is Saka, who sits 9th in the league for goals scored. And if you haven't guessed, we're obviously talking about Arsenal here. But the player that we're recommending has the second best goals per 90 this season with 0.8 per 90. So for Arsenal, we're recommending that they break the bank for Alexander Isak. Sorry, Newcastle fans, but he's good, isn't he? This team actually look pretty stacked across the board, and for the first time in a while, they don't need a striker. I'm in shock right now because of an unlikely superstar breaking through. But even with this being considered, there will be people sniffing about this summer, and their star players, I think, are at risk. We're talking about Eze and Elise at Crystal Palace, but fear not, because the Championship is a place where they've had success in the past, and this is why we're recommending Morgan Whittaker, who has scored 19 goals and assisted 8 for a Plymouth side that only narrowly stayed up on the final day. And there was even some interest from Serie A clubs in January for him. This team excites me, but there are key areas that have aging players, which I think has to be addressed this summer. Now, we could have gone for a centre-back with one of their best ones leaving on a free this summer, but we've gone for a different route. And of course, if you are a representative of Fulham, feel free to buy more than one player. Okay, because we've opted to bring the age profile down in forward areas. So for Fulham, Willian is an important player. He's been brilliant. It's been a great move for him. And he started over 20 matches this season. But at 35, he's not going to be there forever. So this is why I think that Jota, the Celtic Saudi League one, would be a great replacement for him. The season before he signed for Al Ittihad, he scored 11 goals and got 11 assists for Celtic. And importantly, has a great chant. You make the Celtics Jota on the way. Jota on the way. What's not to like? Right, with Lopetegui coming in, and we'll have a video on Lopetegui and how he'll set up at West Ham very, very soon on the channel, so make sure you've subscribed. It's going to be a specific profile that's going to be wanted up front, because at Wolves, he liked to use Jimenez and also brought in Diego Costa, meaning a target man, I think, is something that he wants as part of his front two. And a lot of people will turn their noses up at this suggestion, but I don't think it's justified. West Ham have got a lot of great technicians occupying the attacking midfield areas, and that backboard type striker leading the line could be absolutely perfect for him. So this guy, he's also scored 10 goals, none of them being penalties, by the way, from an XG of 5.9 this season in the Premier League. And he's only started 14 matches, which makes him even more impressive. And this is why I think Elijah Adebayo could be somewhat of an astute signing for West Ham from Luton. Now, this next transfer, I think, obviously absolutely hinges on if this team stays up or not, right? But things happen, you know. We're optimistic here. We're hoping all the teams stay up, and I think they will. The team in question is likely to be without their 2 best central midfielders next season because one is on loan in Sambi Lokonga and the other, Ross Barkley, only has a contract until June and will likely move. These two have been brilliant for Luton because they progress the ball so well, either through carries or distribution. So with that in mind, and the fact that they like to shop in the Championship, why not? We've gone for Ismail Konak. The Watford player is brilliant at carrying the ball as well as take-ons in central areas. He's ranking in the top 9 and 13th percentiles for both metrics, and he's only 21. Now for this next one, I had absolutely, well, I didn't know where to start because, well, I mean, they've got too many players already, but also somehow need players. But after minutes of consideration, we've gone for the sensible choice of a goalkeeper. And this goalkeeper is no joke. He's so much not a joke, he is a joke. Do you know what I mean? He reminds me so much of Courtois. He's 6'7". That's tall, by the way. And he has a 74.6% save percentage. And the best of all, he's only 23. Another young player. Just what you need. Joking aside, it's important to get good players through the door, and this guy is a good player. Another interesting aspect of his game is that he's also unbelievable at saving penalties. Out of the 5 that he's faced this season, he's saved 3 of them, which is always useful for the cup competition. So, Chelsea, if you're listening, Georgi Mamadashvili from Valencia is the guy. Get him now before Real Madrid do. So when you have a look at this next team, the squad's, look, I think it's pretty strong throughout. Now, maybe you want that second choice striker who's just that little bit more proven in comparison to the players that they've already got. And then you can send a young lad out on loan for some experience. But the position that we've gone for is right back. This team has been linked with right backs over the last few weeks, and we think that we've found the perfect one for them. So right now, Aston Villa have got Matty Cash, who is fine. He's great. But an upgrade does seem like it's on the horizon. So we're going to do it before they do it. So we look good. Is that allowed? The player that we've got here could be on the move this summer and would be an absolute coup for Villa, who have shown over the last few transfer windows that they are very ambitious. So we've gone for Denzel Dumfries because he can contribute in attacking areas brilliantly. I think he's great in transition and importantly wins 63% of his aerial duels, which is always useful when defending that back post from crosses, which is a big part of the cut and thrust of the Premier League. So this club probably won't have a lot of cash lying about this summer, let's be honest, but they've got to be sensible with their dealings, and with what we've seen so far, the Championship could be a place that they look for high value players. It's likely that they'll need a midfielder this summer, with contracts expiring and some departures also likely. So, using StatHead, we've had a look at who the best ball-winning midfielders in the Championship are, and there was one name that stood out by a mile. Ben Sheaf. What a player. He averaged 3.7 tackles per 90 for Coventry last season, which was the second most of any Championship midfielder, as well as 1.5 interceptions per 90. I think this feels perfect for Everton to complement James Garner in the midfield, and I think it could work really well within Dyche's system. For Manchester City, we've gone big, we've gone bold, and we've gone for a Kevin De Bruyne replacement. Replacing a player like him, it's not easy, right? But the fact of the matter is that he's aging, and a replacement needs at least a season to integrate into the system, as we often see with Man City. So buying this type of player now, I think, is important. The big question around this player is, would he leave Bayer Leverkusen after the season they've had? But Bayer Leverkusen have said that they need to make one marquee sell this summer, just so they can be able to spend and develop the project. So could a £100 million bid from Man City see them sign Florian Wirtz this summer? 17 goals and 18 assists this season. Who says no to that? And who can afford that much? Not many teams. He would be frightening at Man City. A club legend is just about to leave this team, and whilst he struggled at times last season, he still scored 18 goals in 35 appearances last season, which you simply have to replace because it would, well, it's foolish not to. You're going to be struggling, aren't you? But who should Leicester get to replace Jamie Vardy? Leicester have been doing some shopping in the Portuguese leagues recently, and there's a player currently playing for Braga who could be perfect for them. Simon Banza. He scored 21 goals in the league for Braga this season, and at 27, he's in his prime. His physical qualities, I think, mean that he'd thrive in the Premier League with the pace, the work rate, and the technical skills that he's got. While this next team have been okay in front of goal and in terms of XG, I still feel like their forward line is a little bit weak, certainly when it comes to the depth of it as well. And I have a few sources suggesting that not only Ivan Toney, but Mbeumo might just be on his way this summer. So we've gone there, and I think we've found a player that could be absolutely perfect for them. Brentford, look, they're definitely going to lose Ivan Toney right this season. So the replacement that we've got for them is actually nothing like Toney. Hear me out. Brentford could move to a more dynamic front three, which they kind of did at times at the start of the season before all the problems with injuries happened. You've got Vista down the middle and the new signing of Mohamed El Amin Amora on the left. He's so good, this lad. He's very similar to Martinelli in how he plays, comfortable down the middle, but also elite out wide. He ranks in the top 1% for progressive carries, shots per 90, and progressive passes received. And most importantly, he scored 17 goals this season. First and foremost, welcome Ipswich back to the Premier League. A target man is something that we're beginning to see more and more recently, and this team got promoted through their smart use of target men and how it brought their technical players into the game. And one player who stood out for them was Kiefer Moore after he signed in January. But will Ipswich go for him permanently, or will they look for a younger option? Well, we've gone for the latter choice. This striker has scored 12 goals in Belgium this season. He's 6'6", and importantly, he wins multiple aerial challenges per game, as he bloody should do. And he'd be pretty cheap. Probably around 7 million. Currently playing for Union Saint-Gilloise. Gustav Nielsen ticks a lot of the boxes for Kieran McKenna. Remember the name, Gustav Nielsen. Do not be alarmed. Yes, it's Jimbo, and yes, he's had a haircut. It's Jim from the future. Well, basically, I wanted to change this one because this team is a strange one. They've struggled at times this season, but wherever you look within the team, there's lots of quality across the board, which makes it really tricky to pinpoint an exact position that I feel like they need to fill. So the question then becomes, what type of player should they buy? And in Nottingham Forest's case here, I think that they need to invest in some younger talent that they can potentially sell on, which would help them with their PSR problems. So Man City, they're always a good place to look. And look at Lavia to Southampton, for example, and the money that was made there. So, for Nottingham Forest, we've gone for promising defensive midfielder Mahamadou Sissoko. This next team needs legs in midfield. And if you can guess who I'm talking about from that one sentence, then I think that speaks volumes. I think we're on the right track here, guys. There's one player in particular that could very much suit Manchester United's new transfer strategy and would be a long-term fix rather than the short-term options that they've been purchasing for years. This player only just signed for PSG last season for 50 million. However, in that time, he's only made 19 starts in Ligue 1 and is clearly not a part of Enrique's first-choice midfield. But Manuel Ugarte is a defensive midfielder who is excellent at winning the ball, but also covering huge distances every game. With PSG not really fancying him, recouping 40 million or so back from him could be very tempting, especially if they need to buy an Mbappe replacement this summer. However, one player that Man United and multiple clubs want to sign is Michael Olise, and he's so much better than you think. Click here to find out.